Hello, everybody, and welcome to Disney with the Ducks for episode 15. You're joining me, Gene, and John Kroll, Carly and Jeff, and Kevin, as always. We got a few people that weren't able to make it today. But today we're going to talk about villains, Disney villains. And so just to kick things off, what makes a villain? What makes a good villain, guys?
I think the most important thing to me in a good villain is they have to have a catchy theme song. If you can't come out and just have like this,
it has to be a theme song.
It's his
song.
It's his song. They got to come out and they just got to nail it. That they know them the bad guy because I have this deep booming "I'm the bad guy" song.
Can you give me an example?
Scar for "Be Prepared."
Ursula.
Okay.
Ursula.
So they have to sing. They have to sing. They have to sing.
If you want to, Gene, I say go for it.
No, I don't want to sing.
Do
they have to sing? Does the villain have to sing? I mean, they have to have a song, but do they have to sing it?
He doesn't have to sing it. He just has to have a song declaring him as the villain. Like Gaston has the theme song.
So like Darth Vader's
Imperial Death March.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you know, when you hear that, you immediately see Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important thing to me for the villain has to have a song.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Has to have a song. That's number one.
Yep.
What else? What are other good characteristics? What you got, Kev?
So you can't have a good villain unless you have a really good hero. So you have to have one end of the spectrum and the other end of the spectrum. So the more powerful the villain, the more strong the hero. So you can't have one without the other. And so that's mine.
Okay. That's good.
I think they have to have a good backstory. I think that the best villains, the ones I really like, have a backstory that makes you question whether that person is even really a villain or if, there's some other motivations there. Maybe they're trying to do something good for the world or the universe. But also even somebody like, take Maleficent, for example, right? When you watch her movies, you can see that she didn't start off as a villain. She got changed by the world around her and some of the events that happened and that type of thing. So I like those backstories and seeing kind of the human side of some of these villains and that, people all are good at some point. Right. And I think that actually brings a little bit of hope.
That's really good, John. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Carly.
No, you're fine. I look at it the exact opposite. I feel like whenever I know the backstory, then I start to feel like they're less villainous. And I can understand why they're doing something. I guess I looked at my villains like, man, they don't even have a good reason for what they're doing. They're just awful, 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 awful people. And that's what, I guess it's a personality flaw in them that makes me like, ew, you're just a gross human being, or you're a gross animal or a gross character.
Interesting. So similar to that, I don't necessarily have to have empathy for them, but knowing their motivation and the motivation making sense to me, it makes for a better villain. I mean, for example, Darth Vader captivated lots of imaginations whenever he appeared, and then you found out the backstory. You found out snippets during the original movies, but then you found out the backstory, and you came to really understand and as things have progressed, we've learned more and more and more, and it makes him even to me anyway, a more intriguing villain.
Is he even a villain? Are we really calling him but he turns good in the end.
But he killed a whole bunch of younglings. I mean,
destroyed
that's
planets,
maybe the definition of it,
Destroyed a planet. I mean, yeah.
But
there's going to be a lot of debate on what is a villain.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to get into this during the discussion.
If you're listening, Rick Forbes, just buckle in.
So, Carly, with that being said, I'm curious. So it doesn't matter what a villain does. If they turn good at the end, then it's all okay? Is that what you're saying?
I feel like there are certain things that, if they're remorseful, if they, see the light in a way, I feel like that maybe gives them a beacon of hope in my eyes that they're not so bad. I mean, if you compare somebody who, does something atrocious and then they feel remorse for it, versus someone who does something atrocious. And in the end, they're still like, I still hate you. I'm still going to do more terrible, terrible things, or they die and they didn't have a chance to feel remorse. Then I still feel like they're more villainous.
I get that. It's funny. Something I always say is that, my faith tells me that, is all about redemption, right? And so one of the reasons the best stories have some sort of redemption, Les Miserables, Star Wars, lots of them do. And so that is actually a great point, but it's still, in my mind, it doesn't make, I still think of Darth Vader as a villain. I don't think of him as a good guy.
Right.
He's redeemed, right? But he's still not a good guy.
Yeah, I think at the end of his life, he saw the light and was like, "Oh man, I really need to do something to help my son," and he did that, right? And
most of that where he saw was electricity going through his body.
But I think he had what I was talking about earlier, right? With the backstory, and there was Anakin before that, and how he kind of developed and everything. I think there's a lot of good in him, and it got pushed out by the things that happened to him with the Emperor and everything. So I don't know.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
We're gonna
He's
have
still a
so
villain.
much discussion.
So any other qualities of a villain that we want to talk about? What does that sum up what makes a villain, or is there anything else we're missing?
Arrogance.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And it got to be ugly.
And ruthless.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good villain that's like in a Disney movie that isn't hideous in some way.
Isn't Gaston supposed to, I mean, he's a cartoon, but I mean,
Gaston's pretty hunky.
He's supposed to be hunky, right?
Oh,
He's supposed to be
well, I guess
I don't know.
I don't.
Is Gaston the villain of the movie? That might be for debatable.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we argued about
I
this
like it.
earlier today too. I mean, like we were on the way to my Mother's Day, outing, and we're arguing in the car about what is a villain and what's not a villain and who's the worst and who's the best. And then we're like at home texting other people like, ooh, what do you think about this? Like this has become a hot topic debate in our house today.
I cannot wait for the day that I get to spend like a couple of days with you guys
Oh, I know.
and just
That'd be
watch
awesome.
the interactions and take part in some of these discussions. I am
Kevin
just
got to
so
experience that
amazed.
here a couple weeks
Yeah, I
ago.
got a little bit of that this past weekend. So it was good. It was great.
It
Oh,
starts
man.
out like a cute Disney discussion, and by the end, I'm like, I hate you. Go away.
You're
That's
so
awesome.
wrong. So who wants to jump off first with their favorite villain? Now, this doesn't have to be their
Well,
favorite.
We should talk about like what we're doing rather than just jumping in. Did we talk about our breakdown? Gene, what's our breakdown?
Jeff didn't give me a chance, but hey,
Right.
our break. Hey, so what we're going to do is we're going to each take 3 villains. We're going to talk about basically our favorite overall villain, just the villain that epitomizes villainy for us. Then the next one we'll talk about the most vile, the most evil villain, and then thirdly, like just a worthless villain. Just maybe our least favorite. We'll play with this. We're going to do it how we want to do it. Somebody want to start off with who their overall favorite Disney villain is?
I'll start. So my favorite villain is not only my favorite villain, but probably my favorite character, at least in the MCU. And that is this big fella right here,
Oh,
nice.
Thanos. Thanos
Is he wearing a
is
Christmas sweater?
he is wearing a Christmas sweater.
That's awesome.
John has what is that? A Funko Pop?
Yeah.
Funko Pop bobblehead with
With a
Thanos
Christmas sweater. So, okay, a little background. I love Christmas and I love Thanos. So, I found this guy a few years ago on Amazon and it combined my 2 loves in life. So,
That's awesome.
I keep him on my desk all year round. But no, Thanos is my favorite character. And I even have him right here. So, I keep that picture of Thanos behind me, signed by the guy who invented Thanos, actually, Jim Starlin.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so Thanos is my favorite. I think part of him with his backstory, and he was terrible, right? Destroyed worlds, was killing people left and right. But he was doing it for a reason. He was trying to save the universe in his sick, twisted way. In his mind, he thought, we were overpopulated and he had to get rid of half the people. So he had good motivation behind it. Also, I mean, he gave up his only daughter, Gamora, to make sure that his journey towards saving humanity and mankind kept moving forward, right? And you could see how pained he was when he had to throw Gamora into the pit to get the Soul Stone. So he went through all of that just for us, to try to save us from ourselves and from destruction of the universe. So if it wasn't for Thanos, we wouldn't have survived and thrived as a universe, I guess, even you could say.
Sounds like Jesus, but he's sacrificing his daughter instead of himself.
Right.
And half of the planet.
Yeah. But he's doing it for us.
For us, right. I got you.
I mean, instead of vilifying the man, we should have statues of him. He's got the purple skin, which I love the color purple, so that's a big part of it.
This guy has purple skin too. So.
That's why I like Figment too.
Yeah.
So, okay. So long story short, or long story, maybe a little bit longer. I love Thanos. I think, towards the end, he's fighting all these guys. He's got everything coming at him. He's still in there fighting, trying to do what's right, and save the world. And he's fighting the evil Avengers who are trying to make sure the universe doesn't continue on. So he's my favorite.
This is the episode about villains, not heroes, right?
Know,
right. Yeah. So I mean, he can go either way. So that's mine.
I agree wholeheartedly, John. I'm there with you, and he will probably come up in our hero episode that we do here down the road. So
No,
as he should.
No, I will agree that he goes in the villains episode, but your reasoning, I don't
sold.
even know what to say. I know you have been for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you make a great case, John, but I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna agree with you. He's a good villain. I don't know if I'm gonna agree he's a hero.
We can agree to disagree, I guess.
Right? Exactly. We should be friends.
All right, Kevin.
How about
who's your favorite villain?
I'm probably gonna pick one that Gene would like, but I've got to go with Vader. I mean, for me, he's the first big villain that I grew up watching, and he's got the suit, he's got the breathing, he likes to alter the deal. So once in a while, he was good and fell to the dark side. The Emperor followed him his entire life, knowing how powerful he was, and put all of his energy into turning him. He shows no mercy. I mean, he just carries out, ruthless acts across, all the movies. He has no arms and legs. I mean, he's more robot than man. I mean, as Obi-Wan says. Yep. So, for somebody to have that much power and be able to continue on that many years and then to be redeemed at the end. I mean, that just, for me, he's my number one. Has to be.
So could he be considered your number one villain, or do you think he could be on your number one henchman list if we do a henchman? Because was he really just doing the Emperor's bidding? Is he his own villain, or is he actually?
No, is not a henchman.
So after watching Clone Wars, without watching Clone Wars, I would say then that may be possible. But after watching the Altar of Mortis episodes, I mean, it really shows how Anakin was the center of it all from the beginning, and the Emperor was just carrying through what the Force already required. So the Force was smarter than the Emperor, the father, and the son and daughter in those episodes. Really, they kind of foreshadowed that when he was there. Had to erase his memory. It was so powerful before he left. So
what episode is that? Because I remember it, but I don't.
Okay, so there's a whole.
Kevin, you always impress me, man.
There's a whole Altar of Mortis arc where Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are flying through space to meet up with the clones, and they somehow end up in a portal or something, and it pulls them into this planet called Mortis. And so it's like a 3-episode arc. It's a very good one to go through and see, and just to kind of see how he was destined to fall. I mean, it wasn't the Emperor. It was his destiny. So.
Kevin, I think Vader might be the perfect villain from any movie series I've ever seen. Because I mean, all the stuff you mentioned, plus he's scary. Like you watch it and it brings anxiety to you in a good way. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's the breathing. It's the way he speaks. It's the movements. He doesn't have to do much to scare people into doing what he wants them to do. It's just awesome.
Well, and until, until you see the prequels, you don't really get an appreciation for what he went through. So I think for me, it made him more of a heroic villain, a villain that you love to hate, but kind of hate to love at the same time. So Vader's kind of that for me. So after seeing the prequels, it kind of lines all that together.
And a lot of people got up at arms whenever Lucas redid, changed some things in the originals. I'll tell you, if you've seen the clip on YouTube of the sequence with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan fighting in the Death Star, they've changed it to be more like the lightsaber duels in the prequels. It is amazing. That and Rogue One, seeing Darth Vader the way he just slashed and dashed in Rogue One. You talk about scary. I mean, that's what he should look like. And they just didn't have the same technology. And it was just a different type of fighting that they did with lightsabers in those original movies. But if they redid that, I would be absolutely happy. If that's the only thing they did was they just changed the way they fought with lightsabers.
Right.
Yeah. And you look at like the music too, right? Jeff, you mentioned it earlier. Right. A good theme song. I mean, that's the ultimate villain theme song.
Right. As soon as you hear it, you know he's in the scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I've been rewatching prequels over the last week or so, and I was watching Attack of the Clones, and I don't remember which part. It might be after he went to Tatooine and the Sand People and all that, but you could hear Vader's theme in the background when he's talking about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Foreshadowing. Carly and Jeff, who are your favorite villains?
Go ahead.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
One at a time. Yeah, we disagree. Big surprise, right? Okay, so my favorite all-time villain, and this took me a while because I had narrowed it to quite a few, and I'm glad that we went with 3 different categories. But I ended up going with Hades.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because so we had a whole discussion on, what made Hades a villain. Jeff's whole view was that he's just doing his job, but he went out and had a plan of killing a kid, a baby even. And even though his plan didn't work out, that was his intention. He never felt remorseful for it. So I feel like he is a very strong, very evil villain, but I also love James Woods' voice. It's amazing. And that it's just always dripping with sarcasm. He's got that very cool sense of humor that just comes through in the character. Whenever Zeus asks him, hey, Hades, how are things going down there? And he says, well, they're just fine, a little dark, a little gloomy. And as always, hey, full of dead people. What you going to do? So, and there's just tons of those very cool quotes that they weave in there that he's just a fun villain, but at the same time, he's super creepy. And, if you kind of see him on stage in the parks, he's got a presence about him. Or even if you just hear the voice in, which show was it? Was it the Villains?
It was Villain Spectacular for Halloween.
Yeah,
party.
The Halloween party. They had a Villain Spectacular and he was up on stage, but even just hearing the voice, you knew exactly who it was. I mean, it's just a very distinct voice. So the only thing I can say, and he's ugly, so he meets that criteria, and very arrogant. So we're good there. The only thing he doesn't have a song, so I can't fulfill Jeff's.
Have you seen the Descendants series?
Yes.
I can't remember which one it was, but there was the one where him and Mal have that song, and I love it. It's on my running playlist too.
Yeah, it's
such a good
about him
song.
being a really crappy dad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe I just relate to it. I don't know. But no, I really like that his character in that too.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. As soon as I heard villains, I thought, well, he's in the running. But he's also going to show up here in a minute in the most vile, because anytime you've got a villain that messes with kids, that's one thing I can't.
We're not there yet.
I know. I'm jumping the gun. Go ahead, yours.
So going back to my original criteria, villain has to have a good, catchy theme song that you just know. So my favorite villain is Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog. The Shadow Man just kind of comes out. He kind of slinks through. He's a little creepy. He makes deals, but you don't know how that deal is going to spin for you. and he just always kind of has something, and he always blames other people for it. It's not him, it's his friends on the other side that changes things up for him. And he just preys on the weak and the people who need help for various reasons. Yep, come over, I'll help you, but although knowing that it's going to work out to his advantage. And besides, he's got one of the best songs. So my favorite is Dr. Facilier.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That is a good one.
that movie in general, I don't think gets nearly enough love for how awesome it is and the soundtrack and everything. And I didn't even think about Dr. Facilier for this when I was thinking about it earlier, but you're right. He's awesome for it. He's
not like the main, he's not always in there attacking, but he's the one that creates the conflict at the beginning. And
I don't know what about him makes him so creepy to me, but he is very creepy. Like, I just feel like bad vibes, even, watching it. I don't know if it's just, it feels very New Orleans with the magic kind of mystic arts, the voodoo stuff. That I can just see him being an actual person somewhere. I don't know. He's creepy. And he's ugly, so he fits my criteria.
And he's got a great song. So
They always do.
What about you, Gene?
So, I went back and forth. There's a lot of really good villains. I was trying to think about like when I was a kid, the ones that were scary to me. And the scariest villain of all is the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, but that's not Disney. Literally gave me nightmares. I've never seen it again since I was a little kid because I just haven't. Gave me nightmares. Similar to that is what do you call her on Snow White? What do you call
Evil
her?
Queen.
Yeah, the evil queen. Her, but that's not really the one. The Headless Horseman scared the bejesus out of me when I was
Ichabod, Mr. Toad.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And so that for me, it doesn't meet really any of the criteria because is a pumpkin head a pumpkin head? Is it really, is it ugly? I don't know.
He's undead. I
know, right? It's just scary.
And he's got a good theme song.
Mm-hmm.
So he hits my criteria too.
Have you ever been to Mickey's Not So Scary? I know it's Gene. Halloween party. So the parade where like the Headless Horseman actually rides a horse through the park. Man. It is like goosebumps. Weird.
I wouldn't be scared, but I probably would have other stuff I need to do and not do.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I am scared of the dark, and like. Seeing that in the dark, it's just like it weirds me out.
He kicks off the Buddha View parade, so all the lights go dim, and then you hear a thunder crash, and all of a sudden he just comes around, and he comes. It's pretty cool.
It sounds like I won. Sounds like I had the best villain because he leads the parade. I won.
I give you that.
Well, ours were in parades too.
Yeah, but does he kick off the parade?
Mine saved the universe.
The casual show parade.
John. That's good. So we got our favorite villain out of the way. I don't mean out of the way. We talked about our favorite villain. Great discussion. Hey, great examples, guys. What about the most vile? What's the most vile villain to you?
So this one was tough for me because I went back and forth between three of them, and I
what three?
Huh?
What three?
You'll find out in a minute.
Oh.
So
you were just going to tell us one, you're supposed to.
No, I have three. I'll give you my reasons for the three, and I'll kind of see where I settle on because one of you guys might have one of these three. So the first one I couldn't decide on was Scar. Scar murdered his brother in front of his nephew and then blamed his nephew for it. That's pretty rough. Just so he can take over the kingdom. So
I gotta find another one.
You got Maleficent. Maleficent put a girl to sleep because she wasn't invited to a birthday party. Take all that backstory stuff aside. The backstory is just trying to make it seem like she got a bad rap. But ultimately, she didn't get invited to a birthday party, so she put a girl to sleep.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
She didn't kill her.
That's holding. And she was 16 years later or whatever.
Then she tried to raise her and protect her.
That's a rough one there. Get rid of the backstory movies. The third one I had was Medusa. Though I think Medusa is the one I finally settled on.
But you have to explain to people. I forgot who Medusa was because I was thinking snake hair lady.
Yeah. Medusa from The Rescuers kidnaps a little girl from an orphanage, takes her out into a lake, puts her in a boat on a boat, makes her go into this cave at low tide to get a diamond out of a skull. And when the tide's coming back in, she goes, "Just hurry up and get it, and I'll bring you back up." I mean, that's pretty heartless. And she has crocodiles that are watching her on the boat, so she can't escape. Just kidnapping a girl from the orphanage to get jewelry. Medusa, I think, is probably about the most vile as they come for me.
That sounds pretty vile. That's pretty vile, Jeff.
Not Darth Vader that kills a bunch of children. I mean, I was on the riot act on that one.
If he had Anakin as...
Oh, you count them as different.
Those are different people to me. Those are two different character actions that happen.
He was already Darth Vader.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm. He was already Darth Vader. The Emperor had already named him Darth Vader. Oh,
he blew up a whole planet. Probably several of them, right? But
yep.
Yeah. He didn't have a cool suit yet, though.
Chucked a lot of people too.
So you're going with Medusa?
I am going with Medusa as the most vile character.
The character nobody can remember. She's so vile, we've all forgotten who she is.
Well, because nobody watches the Dark Age movies.
Right.
You know what, Jeff? Because you mentioned The Rescuers, it's actually something I saw as a kid and I loved it. And I was thumbing through. I was scrolling through Disney Plus last night, and I sent y'all a picture. I watched a little bit of Robin Hood. Wouldn't watch the whole thing. I just watched a few minutes, just to bring back memories. But I almost watched The Rescuers, but nobody would watch it with me, and I just didn't want to watch it.
You give me a call, Gene. I'll watch it with you. We'll set up one of those Disney Plus.
Watch, yeah.
Let's do a watch party. That's not weird. Grown ups watch party
watching
and
cartoons.
Rescuers. Yeah. I have no idea why my 18-year-old thinks, man, you're so cringy. You do this podcast, man. I have no idea why he thinks that.
So, who is your most vile, Gene?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
So, Darth Vader would have been on there, but my second, you talked about Medusa being vile because of the orphan, and the only thing worse than doing something to orphans is doing something to puppies. So Cruella de Vil, man, all she wanted to do was kill a bunch of puppies for their fur. It does not get any. I mean, there's nothing better than a puppy. So that's terrible.
Not children.
Don't tell my kids that. Don't tell my
puppies.
kids I said that.
Puppies. I mean, puppies are pretty cute.
Yeah.
Puppies are cute.
Believe it or not, we had this discussion today too, because that was high up on Jeff's list. And I mean, she's no different than anybody else making fur coats out there.
But they're not puppies.
They're not, and they're not their
puppies,
pets.
no.
She's stealing people's pets.
Yeah.
It's not chinchillas. It's not chinchillas. It's not minxes or whatever they are. It's
Minxes.
foxes. It's puppies. Puppies.
With polka dots.
Puppies. With right, spotted puppies.
Yeah. So fireman puppies.
Ugly
Right.
puppies are
I
better.
mean, come on.
First responders.
Yeah.
That's double.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
the whole
vile,
topic.
even vile. All right, enough of that. John, who's your most vile?
Okay, so I was torn between two today, and it's Scar, because like Jeff mentioned, I mean, he manipulated a child into believing that he killed his father, and then he also had tried to have that kid killed. So I think, Scar was one of them, and he has a great theme song. You mentioned it.
He does.
Be
That's
prepared
very
is
important.
pretty awesome. And what's his name? Jeremy Irons. I just love his voice, and just everything about that character is it just screams villain, and I love it. The other one was Jafar, because he's purely in it to gain power, and he hypnotizes people and makes them do things that they don't want to do. He tries to force Jasmine to marry him. All these things, right? And he's just an evil person. So I think in the end, I am going with Jafar. I think he's just a terrible person who's out only to do evil things and control everyone and gain power. And I just don't like that. So
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's solid choice.
That moment where, like, she's like curling his beard is still one of the most disturbing moments in any Disney movie
it's
ever.
creepy.
It's so creepy. And it's partially because it's Jafar and he's gross and ugly, but it's also just creepy.
Yeah. And just he turns into a snake, and I hate snakes. Like, I cannot stand snakes.
Yeah, man.
Kind of like you, Carly. I'm not, they're not my thing. I don't. Ugh. So yeah. So that's also part of it.
I don't understand people that like snakes. I'm sorry,
Me neither.
if you are a snake lover. I don't get it. Ugh.
All right, Kevin. Here we go.
All right. So mine, kind of is a tie between two. I'll pick one over the other. Started out Darth Maul is one of mine because just to get back at Obi-Wan, he killed so many people just to lure him out. I mean, just murdering people left and right, and it's just to get him to come to where he was. It's like that was just really bad. But
Were any of them puppies?
no puppies. But my most vile is Loki.
That's a good one.
Loki is vile. So I love the way. So the reason why is because he's so crafty and he's so smart, and he uses everybody else to his advantage.
Yep.
He kicked off the whole Avengers. I mean, all the things that happened in the Avengers. He's really kind of the catalyst that got it all kicked off. I mean, I love Loki because of that. I think he's kind of like with you, John, with Thanos being the hero. I think Loki is kind of that too. From the different perspective. I mean, the way he was treated as a kid, he was in the shadow of his brother. I mean, but he can at the same time can be arrogant to the Hulk. I mean, nobody else can do that. So I think mine is Loki, not because he murdered puppies, but he did kill Coulson, and he did some other bad things, but he was the catalyst that got the MCU going the wrong way. So in a good way.
He's actually probably my favorite, but because John had already said Thanos, I didn't want to go MCU, but Loki's great.
Yeah.
Great character.
Now,
he's not the typical villain.
That's true. Do you still feel that way after the Loki series that he's a villain? Okay.
No, I don't.
Because I feel like this is maybe again me. I feel like I'm a sucker. Like the second people do something good, I'm like, oh, look, you're good after all. But I feel like he's good after all.
As long as he's making himself look better.
Yeah, right.
He's very self-serving for sure.
As long as he can take the throne, and eat some grapes and that kind of thing,
Get fanned.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Who doesn't want to eat grapes and be
and look like Matt Damon, I guess. So
we're looking
that's
at
mine.
Matt Damon. Is it me?
That's you.
It's me.
Yes.
Okay. I'm deciding then. I've already mentioned Hades, and I think he's pretty vile, but I'm gonna say, just for the sake of branching out a little bit, Mother Gothel from Tangled. Again, it's another example of someone who is taking advantage of children, but still like
she's not a puppy.
Not a puppy. She is not. Mother Gothel or Rapunzel. But Hades does everything that he does because that's his nature. That's just, he's a god and that's his personality. Mother Gothel does it all because she wants to stay beautiful forever. So she's vain. She's very arrogant. She, steals this child away from its parents, locks her up in a tower. I mean, if I just think of all of the hours of counseling that Rapunzel would need after she was, rescued, that alone makes Mother Gothel really awful. But, and she, I love the song Mother Knows Best. It's fantastic. The voice is great. The lyrics are great, but she calls her chubby, and then she's like, oh, I'm just teasing. And every time she tells Rapunzel that she loves her, she's in the movie, she's actually really talking to her hair. If you watch it back, like she kisses her head because she's talking to the hair. So just kind of lures this girl into thinking that she's loved and cared for, only to realize that she's been, taken hostage by this crazy woman forever. But again, she's ugly. She's awful and does terrible things to children.
Great theme song.
She's got a great theme song. She's very arrogant. She's awful. And she falls out of that tower and dies. I'm like, you deserve that, jerk face.
And I think she meets Jean. I think it was Jean's criteria of having a strong a hero to go against with Flynn and Rapunzel. I think they're a pretty good duo.
That's Kevin. That's Kevin.
Oh, it's Kevin. Okay.
I'm not that smart.
Yeah, I think that was a good. They have a good partnership, and she's going against them. I just like that whole movie, and
Yeah.
she is vile.
Jeff
She's
and I had a
terrible.
whole discussion earlier, though. He thinks Flynn Rider is a villain, and I want to stab him with my pen.
So he was kind of like a mercenary, or kind of a scoundrel. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh, I like scoundrels.
I like Scott. Yeah,
So kind of like a Han Solo kind of thing.
He was pretty self-seeking. He wasn't really looking out for.
So was Han Solo.
yeah.
Okay, so he did steal some things, but like petty theft, it's fine. It's not fine.
Misdemeanor.
Don't steal things. But
And he found love, and it transformed him.
That's right.
right, but like he climbs up into the tower just to get away from Maximus, and she whacks him with a frying pan. So like
Breaking
I
and
mean,
entering.
Right, exactly.
I feel
B&E.
like he thought it was empty.
Well, it still doesn't give you a right to break in and enter. It's not yours.
And then she blackmails him.
Oh.
So
Is there a lot of moral ambiguity in your house, Jeff?
Not for me.
I'm just curious.
No, I'm pretty well right there.
All right.
Carly seems to have a lot of gray areas. Jeff,
know, right?
it all goes back to understanding people's reasoning for what they do. I like brains. All right, I quit.
Jeff, did you share yours already?
I did.
Yeah, he did.
We
Yeah,
started
his
with
was
you.
dumb.
Some, is it the worst villain now, or which one?
Now
gets a
it's
lot
the
of-
worst. Now it's the worst. Who wants to start with your worst? And that can be whatever the criteria you have for that.
Right? Like worthless, like
Yeah.
Blah.
worthless.
Undeveloped.
Sure.
Whatever.
right. I wrote down
Whatever.
blah.
Go ahead, Joan.
I don't know. In terms of worst villains, I can't really think of one that's just terrible that I don't like, that doesn't serve much of a purpose. I just,
Really?
yeah, I don't
I have a
know.
list
I
of
don't
a
have
bunch.
one.
Do
I've
you
got a
want to
good one.
borrow some?
You guys go. Maybe I'll think of one as you're
All right.
as you're
You want me
talking.
to go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, mine is Hans from Frozen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say,
Oh.
okay, every other one was Star Wars.
yeah.
And when you said Han, I thought you were going
Han
solo.
Solo?
And I was
Kevin,
like, wait.
That's a really good one. And that's actually
Well-
the one my wife told me I should use, and I forgot. Now she's
Oh, really?
mad at me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, most villains you can grow to understand and have like an appreciation for, at least. Not Hans at all. I think he's the worst villain ever.
Like worse in the like he's kind of a really crappy human, or worst in like undeveloped, or worst like we could have cut him out of the movie and it would have still been the same. Like
Yeah,
all of the above.
the last one.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
His purpose in the movie was, I don't know, seemed like I don't know if it was an afterthought or what, but just, I don't know.
Just did some reshoots and stuck him in there, you think?
Yeah,
I honestly
so.
feel like his purpose in the movie was to show that like they didn't need a guy. Like
Yeah.
every other Disney princess queen movie has been, oh, the guy rescues me. And this one was like, in your face, we don't need boys. Guys stuck and they're manipulative. Except maybe Kristoff has like a, little brief yay. But other than that, this was like all girl power. So yes, he was kind of worthless.
Yeah. And he was just like, he was whiny, right? He was very, very snivelly and whiny. He was the 12th brother or whatever, and he was never going to get the crown. So he manipulated his way into it. It just, yeah, you're right. Kevin, that was a really good one, I think.
That also reminds me kind of like, who's the other guy on Frozen? The stupid ruler from the other one.
Weaselton or whatever.
Yeah.
Weaselton, yes.
Whatever.
Right?
Weaseltown.
Wesselton. Yes, he was also kind of a villain and also
Yeah.
kind of whiny and
He was a better villain than Hans, I think.
yes. But what's yours?
I'm not a big fan of a lot of the Pixar villains. So
Pixar?
yeah, Pixar doesn't to me. So I'm kind of back and forth between two.
Syndrome.
Teddy bear.
No, I
Yeah,
thought about
Teddy
that
Bear.
one, but I never made it through that movie long enough to remember it enough to think that he was a bad villain. So, but Lotso was on my list of potentially. I don't think Chick Hicks was a great villain for Cars. I think everybody wants Lightning McQueen to be like a solid villain for a Cars movie, or sorry, solid hero. But Chick, what did he really do for it? But I think the computer from Wall-E is the most undeveloped, unnecessary creature villain because he tried to stop Wall-E from just doing his job and trying to repopulate the Earth and getting back to the planet.
Which one is that? Is that the boat wheel guy?
It's like actually the ship, right?
It's the main computer.
Isn't the ship controlling everybody?
Okay.
But it really wasn't necessary. I mean, the whole movie is a feel-good movie about just trying to get back to the planet and get back to some normalcy and get off the boat. But the ship really wasn't necessary to have a villain or somebody that tried to be a villain to stop them from doing it. Yeah. So I think that was kind of a stretch. It really wasn't necessary. It wasn't needed to be developed, and just kind of, it didn't do much for me on that one.
Do you know what else wasn't necessary with Wall-E? The entire movie, Wall-E.
Aw, ouch.
I like Wall-E.
You did.
That's a great point.
I couldn't do it.
All right, like I love Wall-E the character, and there are so many really cute moments in that movie, but honestly, you could just take out the first part up until the point that he meets Eva or Eve, however you want to say it. And then after that, just cut out the rest and I would be fine. Like he could be a Pixar short, and it would be perfect.
There you go.
But some of the movie gets very drawn out and boring.
I like some of the music from it.
It does have some cute songs. I'll give you that. But again, you could fit that into a Pixar short.
All right. So not that I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. I was agreeing with you, actually.
All right.
Me?
Sure.
So it took me a while to come up with mine because at first I was thinking like Captain Hook, just because I guess I felt like I never really knew why he hated Peter Pan so much, to the point where I had to look it up. And then I was like, oh, Peter Pan cut off his hand and fed it to the crocodile. Okay, like that kind of makes sense why he holds a grudge. But I felt like he was very underdeveloped. And he's just like can I say putz? Is that a word that you can use?
Sure.
He's just dumb. But I ended up finding somebody that I thought was way more stupid. Yzma. I
don't like Yzma?
Oh yeah.
I love the movie. I do, and I actually like her as a character. From Emperor's New Groove, Gene's looking very confused. He's like, I don't know.
That's not confused. I knew exactly who you were talking about. Time out, because I'm going to tell you that it boggles my mind that you had to look up why Captain Hook didn't like Peter Pan. But you can spout off some crap about Yzma and whoever else, stuff that I've never heard of before. But everybody knows the story of Peter Pan and the crocodile and the clock and the hand and how do you not? That's crazy to me. So I'm going to bully you because you don't know Peter Pan. Yzma, never heard of her. I don't even know.
There's no timeout. That's a time in totally. But I just like, okay, so Yzma's great. She's funny as all get out. But like she's dumb as a box of rocks. Like she hires this henchman who's, dingy and doesn't get anything accomplished, but she continues to let him kind of, do her bidding. And all she ends up doing is turning a guy into a llama. Like that's her grand plan, is turning a guy into a llama. There is nothing critically evil about that. That's just weird.
Be a llama.
I mean, it would only be evil if you introduced Cruella de Vil and then she skinned a llama and made him into a coat, but that doesn't happen. So
those are crossover movies,
right? That would be funny. Yeah. But all she ends up doing is, turning this awful leader into a decent guy in the end. So I mean, she's funny, but I think she's a laughable villain. I don't think she's a villainous villain in any way, shape, or form. So how about you, Gene?
I'll tell you that there are so many. What's that?
I said it's apparently not going to be Captain Hook.
Not going to be Captain Hook. There's several that I just kind of went through, but so first of all, Pete from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. He's a terrible villain.
Oh,
Gets on my nerves.
Pete the cat.
No, Pete's not a cat. Pete is, I don't know what the heck Pete is. Pete's a dog? I don't know.
He's a cat. He's a cat.
You know, I thought he was
what?
a cat too.
He's a cat?
He's a
really?
cat.
He's
Mhm.
a cat, really?
Yeah.
So we had a discussion, by the way. We had a discussion at Disney World. Somebody said, I'm not going to say who, said, you know that Goofy's not a dog? Goofy is a cow. And I said, whoa. If that's true, my world is rocked. So I did a deep dive, a bunch of research. Actually, I just Googled it. Goofy is a dog. But for whatever reason, they've determined that Goofy is more, what do they call that?
Bovinian.
Anthropomorphic. Yeah, I can't say it. If I saw
He's
it,
a
I could say
talking
it.
dog.
He's a talking dog. Acts like a person. Acts like a person. But Pluto doesn't. So anyway, that's just kind of weird. But so Pete. But I think that's kind of a weak one, just because you don't see Pete a lot. The Mandarin from Iron Man. It was just kind of a terrible villain,
But he kind of has like a redemption back in the Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
movie.
but
He's got a
still.
little bit more going on there. He was a kind of a puppet for that.
Is that the
He was
guy in the cave?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a guy that he played like he was a villain. It was just for the they put him on video for it. But I mean,
Yeah.
he just got on my nerves. I don't know why. It's just worthless
Wow. And he's weird and
weird. Yeah, a
dumb.
little debauched. Is that a word?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is
a little
now.
bit. Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, so many great villains though. I went through like every Sid from Toy Story 2. Sid,
Yeah.
do you know
Kid
what I'm
Next
talking
Door.
about,
No,
Carla?
I know Sid. I just don't think
Yeah.
he's a good villain. Are you going to say he's a good one?
No, I'm gonna say he's a pretty terrible one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He's on my list too.
Right? Like you could totally cut that out. And
Randall Boggs from Monsters.
I don't like him.
Yep.
I don't like him either. Yeah.
no,
No, he didn't really have a good reason to be a villain. I'm so a little
No.
jealous,
yes.
Yeah.
So that's I broke the rules and came up with a few, but I don't have a lot of stuff to say about any of them. I just don't like them.
So do we
So-
stall long enough for you, John?
Yeah, so I still haven't really thought of one other than Hans, which Kevin, after you said it, I was like, yep, that was the one. But I will say one I think is horribly overrated is the Evil Queen from Snow White. I just feel like this girl is better looking than you, so now you're like, I'm gonna destroy you. It doesn't really, I don't know. There's not a big motivation there. She doesn't have a good backstory. She doesn't have a great theme song that I remember anyway. So and the hero Snow White, I mean, really, what does she do? She walks around, has some birds and whatnot. I don't know. Has some dwarfs that she plays with that are fun. I don't know. It's just not. I think she's overrated, and I'm not a big fan of the movie because I find it a little bit boring. I know that's probably blasphemy in the Disney community, but it's not my thing. And I think she gets all this credit for being some giant villain in the Disney universe. And really, what did she do? Right? I mean, she saw a mirror. The mirror told her this young lady is better looking than her, and now she wants her to be destroyed. I just don't like it.
And all she does is give her an apple and put her to sleep for a while.
Right.
Like,
She turns herself into an old lady with an apple. I mean, yeah, if some old lady comes up to me and she was like, here, you want an apple? Oh, yeah, thank you.
but an old lady that looks like that one, like
Maybe not.
No.
And if
I
she's
mean,
hovering
I'm
around
like,
my window and
Joy
like
was
kind of
I'd be like, thanks a lot.
like, hey,
What
what are you
are
guys
you
doing
doing?
in there? You want an apple?
right?
I
And
just-
then I would throw it in
yeah.
the next trash can because she
Right,
was
right.
creepy.
That's probably a good point. Yeah.
I
She's not some sweet old lady. She was,
No.
wandering the woods alone, looking in people's windows. Kind of
So-
creepy behavior.
Yeah.
right.
Mm.
She's not a very intelligent villain for sure. She should have
Yeah.
thought that out more. I feel like
So,
there could have been a better plan, but I guess Snow White was stupid enough to fall for it anyway.
Right.
So
yeah. But I do love the character interaction with her at like Artist Point at Disney World. So,
right. If we went with character interaction, like that's a whole different ball game because then we're talking Gaston, we're talking the stepsisters
and
and
they're
the
hilarious.
Lady
Kylo
Tremaine.
Ren.
They're amazing. Kylo Ren. Oh my gosh! Like talk
He didn't
about
scare me. He didn't scare me.
liar.
He didn't.
That was an intimidating one. Like I was nervous, giggling.
I don't know. Rebels. What?
He
I
was
don't know
not
what you're
happy.
talking about.
You what?
Rebels. What do you? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything.
He's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, character interactions are a completely different ballgame as far as villains, because
Yeah.
then you get all kinds of weird ones.
Did everybody share their worthless villain?
We did.
Yeah.
Kevin? Okay. Any other villain talk? Any other comments about villains? There are just so many good ones. I'm really looking through there. I mean, I named a favorite, but there's so many good ones. And some of y'all stole, some of my choices. So because they're great iconic villains.
Well, I feel like we did a really great job of talking about like some of the Marvel ones and Star Wars, but mostly animated. And I feel like there are some live action movies out there that maybe we didn't consider.
instance.
Like, what's that?
For instance,
Mary Poppins.
she's not a villain.
No, I know she's
a
not.
hero.
But the banker is like such a terrible person. But I would just be interested in the comments if people would tell us maybe some villains from some movies that we didn't consider.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the more live action ones.
So I couldn't remember because I haven't seen it in a long time, but I was actually trying to think of the guy, not the queen in Enchanted, but the henchman guy. And he plays a bad guy in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember his name, but he was a good villain.
He's sort of like the guy that's on Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Sort of
and
like
he's
And
the
Harry
bad
Potter.
guy in Harry Potter too.
Yeah, he's the rat in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Wormtail. Oh, now I can find his name.
Yeah. You're never going to have a hero named Wormtail. You know, he's,
Right?
no, you know what I mean?
It is Timothy Spall. Spall.
Is that what the character's name is, or that?
No, it's the person.
Oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So, yeah, he plays a really good villain in lots of things.
I consider him more of a henchman, though. I think he more henchman category.
He probably does.
He tries to kill the squirrel or the chipmunk or whatever in Enchanted. Why isn't that up there with puppies? You can't get more cute than a little teeny chipmunk with their chipmunk cheeks.
But he's working for somebody else that's a higher up.
Working for the queen.
Yep. So
Fine.
Hey, you said we did a great job. I mean, we often do, Carly. We often do.
Right.
So with that being said, I think this brings us to everybody's favorite segment, and that's whacking up with the ducks.
Oh.
What were you doing? Right. Close enough. What are your jokes, guys? Somebody hit me.
all right.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
When does the hot dog get in trouble?
When
When it's being a brat.
Uh-huh.
Brat, get it?
I got it.
I've got a villain themed one for the episode. All right, so the villain says, "Why is my calendar wrapped in aluminum?" And the superhero goes, "I've foiled your plan."
That's good.
Nice.
I like that
All
one.
right, I got one, another villain one, and a Star Wars one at that. So
Imagine.
yeah.
I love
Did you
it.
guys hear that there's a new villain in Star Wars that's coming out? She's going to be a female villain. She's going to use the Force like all the other the dark side users. Her name is Ella Vader.
Mhm.
I bet she rises right to the top of the empire.
That's right.
Maximizer.
Maximizer.
I don't really have a joke, but I was just going to tell you guys. I want to start beekeeping, right? So I went to the store to buy some bees, and I said I need a dozen bees. And the guy gave me my box, and I got them. And I was walking in the car. I wanted to check and make sure everything was all right. So I opened the box and I started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 bees. And you know me, I don't ever want to pull one over on somebody. So I walked back in there. I said, "Hey man, Mr. Bee shop owner, you gave me 13 bees. I only paid for 12. This isn't right." And the guy said, "Don't you know? With 12, you get a freebie." It's a true story.
Uh-huh. All right, what you got?
Do you know why all the lions went to Simba's naming ceremony?
No.
It was the main event. Get it like a lion mane? It's the main event.
I don't know that you have to explain it though. I don't think you have to explain it.
He likes to explain jokes. That's
Yeah,
what he
you're not
does.
giving our listener much credit.
Right.
I don't think he's giving any of us much credit.
Our
Well,
listener.
he never does. Yeah.
It was
Did you
singular.
caught that, Gene? Our
I did.
listener? The one.
I'm smarter than I look. Carly, what you got? You got one for us?
I gave you mine, the hot dog.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. That's everybody. Huh?
It was clearly not memorable.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just yeah. That's everybody, right? Everybody.
It is.
Yeah.
We've all shared our jokes. Any other comments? Anything else anybody's got to share before we sign off?
Not that I can
I
think
guess-
of.
Yes, that's not.
No.
So hey, thank you so much, everybody that's listened, supported, liked, followed. 5-star reviews, guys. Let us know what you like. Let us know what any ideas you might have for the show. Carly asked the question. If you have any ideas about villains, we'd love to hear your ideas. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to hear your feedback. What can we do to make this? We think it's pretty entertaining for us, but we'd like for it to be entertaining for you as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Quaharina.
Bye, everybody.
Never tell me the odds.
Item.
Two
That's
negatives make a positive.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's math.
There you go.
See, I'm a little mad at Oreos right now because when we were at the Flying Pig the other day, somebody was passing out Oreos on course.
Why are
That
you
was
mad
not
at
an Oreo.
They give us one Oreo that was
Not
like
even a double
it
stuff.
wasn't a double. It's like an Oreo
Oh.
thin.
It
It
was
was
like
like that big.
Ate the stuff. It was like no stuffing at all. It's
No,
like
it's just
somebody
You
chopped
got to
it
go
all off.
double stuff. It's like
It's like
double stuff
somebody
or nothing.
twisted off, licked it all off, and stuck them back
Golly.
together.
You know what I do sometimes is I even
Nasty.
quadruple stuff them by
See,
taking
that's too
two double
much.
stuffs, taking off
That's too much stuff.
combining them, and then throwing away the two, extra pieces.
See, I've done the mega stuffs before, and I think the mega stuffs are too much. The double stuffs are like the perfect, and you hold them in the milk just till they start to like break in half at your finger.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, you're one of those guys. Okay, I don't do the milk thing.
yeah.
Is it better or worse than that?
Bradley says not as good as No Way Home.
I think it's better.
Really?
It's better.
I don't-
Really?
I
I
don't
love No
care
Way.
for Spider-Man very much.
Oh.
Carly, what do you
What?
like?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You hate
Doctor
everything
Strange
good
is
in the
my
world.
favorite.
I know.
Doctor Strange is my favorite.
Any